Get out of the car!
What?
Get out of the car right now!
I haven't done anything!
She was mistaken for a so-called sovereign citizen, thought to be making up her own laws, but she was the governor's wife. An officer ignored her ID, lost control, smashed the car window, and dragged her out, acting as if his authority outweighed everything. At the station, black SUVs swarmed the scene, and her calm presence revealed the truth instantly. The officer was immediately stripped of his badge, faced a $5 million lawsuit, and the entire precinct was shut down by the governor. He broke her window, but in the end, he destroyed his own career.
Sir, I can't find your back. Don't lock your fingers. You should not do this, right? Put your hands upside down. Spread your feet.
They thought they were arresting a fake cop, but instead, they handcuffed their worst nightmare. During a routine traffic stop, a man identified himself as a U.S. Marshal. Rather than verifying his credentials, the local officers mocked him. "Yeah, and I'm the president," one sneered. Even after showing his federal ID, the officers grew aggressive. They slammed him against the car, twisted his arms, and threw him into the squad car, ignoring every protocol in their own arrogance. The laughter stopped abruptly when they finally checked his ID. The man in handcuffs was a high-ranking U.S. Marshal on an official mission. Shock and terror replaced the officers' confidence in an instant. The fallout was swift. The officers faced civil rights lawsuits, claims of excessive force, and by the end of the week, all were fired. The city now faces a massive payout, costing taxpayers millions. When ego replaces the law, everyone loses. Should these officers face prison for abusing their power?
Oh, Jamie! Jamie, no! Oh my, no! Oh my God!
Local news reports confirmed that missing Jimmy Gracie has been found deceased. Authorities located his body this Thursday afternoon, March 19th, in the waters of Barcelona's Olympic port. Officials focused their search on this area after Jimmy's wallet was discovered in the water nearby. This time, they still need to officially confirm the identity of the body and determine the exact cause of death. However, according to current lines of investigation, there is no indication of foul play. Forensic analysis will be key to understanding how Jimmy ended up in the water, whether he drowned or had passed away before entering the water. He was last seen around 3 a.m. by friends at a nightclub in Barcelona, and the discovery of his wallet in the water near the location he went missing ultimately led authorities to his remains today.
Stop!
Don't touch
Okay,
me!
I can search you, and that's what I'm doing.
Shocking allegations of police misconduct are rocking a community. A young woman was pulled over for speeding. She stayed calm as the officer ordered her to step out of her car and stand in front of his patrol vehicle. During a routine pat-down, the officer crossed the line, touching her in ways he never should. When she stepped back to protect herself, he yelled, insulted, and threatened her. Moments later, backup arrived, but everything froze when they realized the woman he had just violated was the wife of a police chief from another state. Shock and panic spread among the officers. Internal Affairs immediately launched an investigation. The offending officer was fired within 24 hours and faced a civil lawsuit. The city was ordered to pay $5 million in taxpayer money, igniting public outrage over a completely preventable abuse of power. This incident has left the community demanding accountability, justice, and systemic change.
Let's try this again.
Let's not. Let's fill out the form and you answer my questions.
This morning, a startling incident unfolded when a police officer was terminated following inappropriate conduct involving a high-ranking federal official. According to witnesses, the situation began as a routine parking violation stop. However, the interaction quickly escalated into a heated confrontation. During the exchange, the officer reportedly lost his composure and threw a parking ticket directly at the man's face, drawing attention from nearby onlookers. Moments later, the situation took a dramatic turn. The individual was identified as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who was in the area on official duty. Once his identity was confirmed, senior officials were immediately alerted, prompting a swift internal review. Within hours, a spokesperson for the local police department announced that the officer's actions represented a serious breach of professional standards and departmental conduct. The officer was dismissed the same day, and a formal apology was issued to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. An investigation remains ongoing to fully understand the sequence of events. Meanwhile, the incident has reignited public discussion surrounding law enforcement behavior, authority, and accountability in high-pressure situations.
That situation, we cannot expect a mother with a sick child to remain calm. The judge found Catherine not guilty. Do you think this verdict is fair?
An 8th grade boy stabbed his classmate with a sharp weapon and pushed him into the lake. On the afternoon of November 5th, TH and the boy came to the lake together, and then they had a dispute. The surveillance video shows that the boy grabbed TH's neck, slammed him into the guardrail, and then took out the knife he carried with him to stab TH. After stabbing TH, the boy did not stop, but directly picked him up and pushed him into the lake. After TH fell into the water, the boy saw him struggling in the water by the lake and immediately turned around to leave. A few minutes later, passersby discovered TH, who had fallen into the water, and immediately called the police, taking him to the hospital. Unfortunately, TH passed away due to prolonged suffocation and excessive blood loss caused by drowning. After investigation, the police found that the boy was classmates with TH. Investigators said that the two were originally good friends, but recently they have had conflicts. The police immediately arrested the boy. Subsequently, TH's parents filed a lawsuit against the boy and claimed $2 million in damages.
Buenas noches.
A 67-year-old woman unfortunately deceased in front of her neighbor's house, and her children are demanding $2 million in compensation. 67-year-old Martha Wilson baked pumpkin pie on Halloween to give to her neighbors. As she walked up to her neighbor's doorstep, a sensory skull decoration suddenly lit up and let out a scream. Martha slipped in shock and hit the back of her head on the ground, losing consciousness on the spot. The neighbor opened the door and found her, immediately calling 911. Unfortunately, when the medical staff arrived, they confirmed that Martha had no vital signs. Martha's cause of death was determined to be cerebral hemorrhage caused by a head impact. Martha's family sued their neighbor for $2 million in compensation. They believe that this skull prop is both dangerous and malicious, with no warning signs or adjustable volume, and is unsafe for both children and the elderly. However, the neighbor insisted that this was just a Halloween decoration and had no malicious intent, and he could not have predicted that it would trigger such a tragedy. He also pointed out that every household in the community would display similar decorations, and Martha's passing deeply saddened him, but he never expected such a thing to happen. But the judge believes that placing shock devices that can suddenly make loud noises in dimly lit areas inherently poses a danger. In the end, the court ruled that the neighbor was responsible for 30% of the negligence and ordered them to pay $45,000 in compensation to Martha's family. Do you think the judge's verdict is fair?
A 16-year-old boy shot and killed an intruder while protecting his 8-year-old sister, and the whole community is calling him a hero. On October 28th, the 8-year-old girl was waiting for her school bus as usual when a white car suddenly stopped across the street. 4 to 5 men got out and started walking toward her with bad intentions. Sensing danger, the girl immediately ran back home, with the men chasing close behind. They began kicking the front door violently. Inside the house were only the 8-year-old girl and her 16-year-old brother, Keller Edelman, as their parents were out of town. Hearing the noise, Keller told his sister to hide upstairs and not come out. He then went to his father's room, grabbed a handgun, and shouted through the door, warning the intruders not to come in, that he was armed. But the intruders didn't take him seriously. They thought he was bluffing with a fake gun. Moments later, the door was kicked open and a shot rang out. One intruder collapsed instantly, while the others fled in panic. Keller immediately called 911. When police arrived and reviewed the security footage, they determined that Keller acted in self-defense and had protected his sister's life. The local community praised him as a teenage hero. However, the family of the dead intruder argued that he didn't deserve to be killed and threatened to sue Keller, demanding $2 million in compensation. What do you think? If you were Keller, would you have pulled the trigger to protect your sister? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Un niño de 8º grado lo empujó al lago después de apuñalar a su compañero de clase con un arma afilada. En la tarde del 5 de noviembre, TH llegó al lago con el sospechoso y luego tuvo una discusión. Según el video de vigilancia, el sospechoso agarró el cuello de TH y golpeó la barandilla, y luego sacó el cuchillo que llevaba consigo y lo apuñaló hacia TH. Después de apuñalar a TH, el sospechoso no se detuvo y lo levantó directamente para empujarlo al lago. Después de que cayó al lago, el sospechoso vio a TH luchando en el agua junto al lago, y luego se dio la vuelta y se fue. Minutos más tarde, a TH, que cayó al agua, fue encontrado por los peatones que pasaban, e inmediatamente llamaron a la policía y lo llevaron al hospital. Pero desafortunadamente, TH se asfixió en el agua durante demasiado tiempo y perdió demasiada sangre. Después de la investigación, la policía descubrió que el sospechoso y la víctima eran compañeros de clase. Los investigadores dijeron, los dos solían ser buenos amigos, pero en los últimos días han tenido conflictos entre ellos. La policía arrestó inmediatamente al sospechoso. sospechoso. Posteriormente, los padres de TH demandaron al sospechoso y pidieron una compensación de $2 millones. ¿Qué tipo de castigo cree que debe recibir el sospechoso? ¿Deberían sus padres asumir la responsabilidad?
A woman slapped a cashier over an order refund dispute. This morning, 32-year-old Karen stormed into the restaurant demanding the cashier process her refund. The cashier had placed her order incorrectly. Video shows Karen standing at the register demanding a refund. However, the cashier stated she would only refund her money if she got out of the restaurant.
No! I want it now!
I'm not giving you anything.
The cashier feigned threatening to call the police. Upon hearing this, Karen began verbally attacking the cashier before suddenly slapping her. Karen then turned and walked away. The cashier came out from behind the counter to chase after her. A male server witnessed this and quickly intervened to stop the cashier. Nevertheless, the cashier pursued Karen out of the restaurant. Karen subsequently drove away. Police arrived at the scene, reviewed surveillance footage, and arrested Karen in a parking lot near the restaurant. It remains unclear whether Karen faces any charges. What are your thoughts? Who do you think is at fault here? Share your views in the comments.
A man shot and killed his ex-girlfriend at a convenience store in North Aguazur, Pennsylvania. On January 26th, 54-year-old Maria Socorro was conducting a cash transaction with another man.
To protect her 5-year-old daughter, a single mother shot and killed a road rage attacker on the street and now faces the possibility of life in prison. At the time, Catherine was hurrying to the hospital with her feverish daughter when she approached an intersection blocked by an SUV. Catherine lightly tooted her horn, but the SUV's owner, Jack Cooper, suddenly got out and began shouting uncontrollably. He even jumped onto her hood, threatening to kill her. Terrified, Catherine warned that she would call the police, but Jack did not stop. He even tried to pry open her car door. As the situation grew increasingly dangerous, Catherine was forced to fire her gun, and by the time the police arrived, Jack showed no signs of life. In the interrogation room, Catherine broke down in tears, saying she never intended to kill him. She just wanted to protect her young daughter. In court, the prosecution argued that Catherine used excessive force in her self-defense, stating that she could have simply stayed in her car and waited for the police to arrive. However, the judge reviewed the surveillance footage multiple times, including the man's attack and Catherine's actions in self-defense. The judge believed that Catherine was genuinely facing a real threat, and in that situation, we cannot expect a mother with a sick child to remain calm. The judge found Catherine not guilty. Do you think this verdict is fair?
Un hombre armado con un machete entró a una tienda y mató a un empleado antes de ser disparado por otro trabajador. El video de vigilancia muestra a Ora Grant, de 31 años, sosteniendo un machete y circulando alrededor del mostrador de la tienda, agitando un cuchillo cerca del cuello de una empleada. Ella no tuvo tiempo de reaccionar y se quedó paralizada, sujetándose el cuello. Después de unos segundos, logró salir corriendo para salvar su vida. En ese momento, James Guthrie, que estaba cerca, sacó su arma oculta y disparó a Grant en el brazo antes de que ambos forcejearan. La empleada herida corrió hacia la puerta y al ver la situación, Grant se liberó de James y la persiguió. James rápidamente volvió a tomar su arma y disparó, pero falló, y Grant logró escapar momentáneamente. Otra empleada huyó del lugar y llamó a la línea de emergencia. Cuando la policía llegó, la empleada herida y James fueron trasladados al hospital. Lamentablemente, la mujer falleció debido a la pérdida excesiva de sangre. Posteriormente, la policía localizó a Grant a varias millas de distancia y lo arrestó. James Guthrie fue galardonado con el premio al buen ciudadano por el Departamento de Policía local, en reconocimiento a su valentía, rápida reacción y esfuerzo por proteger a los demás. ¿Crees que él...
In 2022, at the police station lobby in Dearborn, Michigan, people were coming and going. A yearly toy donation event was being held here, collecting Christmas gifts for children from low-income families. Many families could be seen bringing their children to the lobby to donate. Meanwhile, a man appeared at a barbershop about 5 kilometers from the police station. He was the suspect in this incident. The suspect had previously worked as a barber at this shop. He walked straight to the cash register. He then stole a 9mm handgun from the drawer. He hid the gun in his pants. About 10 minutes later, he drove to the police station entrance. He got out of the car and walked into the lobby, looking around. At this time, the surveillance footage showed that there were no other citizens present. The officer in charge of reception saw the suspect and greeted him. The suspect, however, pulled out the gun. He aimed at the officer and pulled the trigger, but the bullet seemed to be jammed, so he removed the magazine and tried to reinsert it.
Una clienta fue golpeada violentamente por varios empleados, después de tomar una bebida gratis en un McDonald's local. Este perturbador video se ha vuelto viral en línea y ha provocado una discusión nacional en las redes sociales. Sabrina Fontelar, de 26 años, pidió un vaso de soda en la tienda, pero el gerente no quería que ella lo tomara gratis y apagó de inmediato la máquina de soda. Fontelar, enfadada, discutió con ella. Según el video, Fontelar tomó un vaso de batido y lo lanzó hacia la empleada. Erika Chaboya luego lanzó la bandeja contra la cara de Fontelar. Chaboya reaccionó rápidamente, levantó a Fontelar y la golpeó repetidamente en la cabeza con los puños. Debido a la gran estatura de Chaboya, Fontelar no pudo defenderse. Fue lanzada de un lado a otro como una muñeca de trapo. Incluso fue estrellada contra una persona inmóvil cerca de ellos. Otro empleado intervino para detener el conflicto y llamó a la policía. Cuando la policía llegó al lugar, las dos personas involucradas fueron arrestadas. Todo el proceso fue increíble. Afortunadamente, al final nadie resultó gravemente herido. Pero todo por una bebida gratis. Como gerente de un restaurante McDonald's, creo que ella debería ser responsable de este.
En el aparcamiento de un supermercado, un padre fue grabado mientras golpeaba repetidamente a su hijo pequeño, mientras le gritaba sin parar. Una testigo grabó la escena, captando por completo la agresividad del hombre. James Collins, de 44 años, estaba en el asiento trasero de su camioneta, gritándole al niño y diciéndole una y otra vez que se callara. Una mujer intentó intervenir, pero Collins empezó a gritarle también, ordenándole que no se metiera en sus asuntos. El llanto del niño atrajo a varios curiosos, pero ni siquiera eso hizo que Collins se detuviera, preocupado por la seguridad del pequeño. Uno de los presentes llamó a la policía. Cuando los agentes llegaron, arrestaron de inmediato a James Collins. Está acusado de maltrato infantil en primer grado y permanece retenido en la cárcel del condado de Gwinnett con una fianza fijada en $4,600. El niño fue trasladado de urgencia al hospital. Afortunadamente, solo sufrió heridas leves y ya está recibiendo atención por parte de servicios infantiles y representantes de protección familiar. Es aterrador pensar que alguien pueda tratar así a un niño tan pequeño. Ojalá no vuelva a tener ningún tipo de contacto con él.
Terrifying moment that a creep grabs a 6-year-old little girl and allegedly tries to kidnap her. Little Kennedy Nash was doing her chores, taking out the trash, when the man walks up and inappropriately touches her. He starts to walk away, then turns back, takes hold of the child, and apparently tries to haul her away. The little girl lets out a blood-curdling scream and runs back inside. After Kennedy ran inside, Dad Ricky knew he had to take action.
I went after him like he still had my daughter with him because I didn't want him to go out here and do something to another kid.
That's Dad Ricky Nash in the Silver Saturn, looking for the man who was on foot. Nash finds him hiding at an auto body shop down the street in Hamilton, Ohio, and calls police.
He was trying to hide in between cars from me.
Nash is now out of his car, confronting his daughter's alleged kidnapper. Police arrested Derek McPherson and charged him
trying to grab a little girl from her mother's arms.
He started telling us, God told me to save her, I have to save her. So he kept coming up to us trying to take her.
As you can see in this video provided by the family, when he returns for the final time, Riley Pegram's brother Chris jumps into action, throwing the suspect to the ground.
He almost grabbed her. I moved him away. My brother pulled him down by the hair.
For little Nevaeh, it was a frightening ordeal. The suspect zeroing in on her, saying she reminded him of his niece. It happened Saturday night while the family was trying to enjoy a pizza dinner. They say it was clear the man wasn't in his right mind.
We think he was on something, on some type of drugs or something. I don't know if he was homeless, but I know he was on drugs.
Pegram says his brother is his hero, jumping in repeatedly to protect his niece. The pair holding the suspect down until authorities arrive. They say it took 6 officers to finally arrest him. The whole time, the brazen suspects
repeatedly become a free parking lot for the teenage daughter and friends of their neighbors, the Johnsons. Tire ruts and mud marks infuriated homeowner Mark Smith. After several communications with his neighbors, they always brushed it off, saying the kids were just parking temporarily. The Smiths decided to take action before a recent family trip. He placed 6 decorative terracotta planters along his property line. They served as both a boundary marker and a physical barrier. But when the Smiths returned from their trip, the site left Mark speechless. The planters had been neatly moved aside by over 3 feet. 2 unfamiliar cars sat parked right in the center of the lawn. Deep impressions were etched into the grass. Mark's patience for communication was exhausted. He didn't make a phone call, nor did he knock on the neighbor's door again. He got a folding chair from the garage and sat down right there on the edge of his lawn, waiting for them to come back and move the cars. His wife updated a post on social media. If you're reading this, be prepared. This man has been in a car with 2 kids, his wife, and 2 dogs for a whole day. He's in rare form, ladies. The post spread quickly within the community. People expressed support for Mark's approach. Someone even suggested, call a tow truck, 1 company for each car. Don't pay attention to years without paying a single dollar in rent. 10 years ago, Lisa was working for a real estate company when her boss offered her a unique deal. She could live in one of the company-owned homes for free as long as she remained employed there. Lisa chose a 3-bedroom house and moved in. She assumed a formal lease would come later, but everything changed when her boss was sent to prison for mortgage fraud and the company collapsed. Still, Lisa stayed in the house and no one followed up. Unaware the home was occupied, the city listed it for auction. Lisa tried to buy it at a low price multiple times, but each auction was mysteriously canceled. Recently, a company from Singapore finally purchased the property. The surprising twist, the new owner told CBS this morning they want Lisa to stay. After discovering the roof had started leaking, the company offered to fix it and work out a formal lease agreement. This time, however, rent will be due. But at least Lisa gets to stay and start a new...
Carrying a machete, entered a shop and killed an employee before being shot by another employee. Surveillance video shows 31-year-old Orain Grant holding a machete and circling the store counter. Holding a knife and waving it at the neck of the female employee, she didn't have time to react and froze in place, clutching her neck. After a few seconds, she hurriedly ran away. At that moment, James Guthrie, who was standing nearby, took out his hidden gun and fired a shot at Grant's arm before the 2 of them struggled together. The injured female employee ran towards the door upon seeing the situation, and Grant got rid of James and chased after her. James quickly picked up the gun and shot it at Grant, but missed it, and then Grant escaped. Another female employee fled the scene and called the emergency hotline. After the police arrived at the scene, the injured female employee and James were taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, the female employee deceased from excessive blood loss. Subsequently, the police discovered Grant several miles away and arrested him. James Guthrie was awarded the Good Citizen Award by the local police department for his bravery and quick response. Do you think he is a hero?
Crazy. A woman was accused of kidnapping after taking children from a neighboring house during a fire. In court, the woman stated, "I saw a lot of smoke coming out of the kitchen window. The children were home alone and were screaming for help from the upper floor. I just wanted to save them." However, the prosecution argued that the defendant had entered private property without authorization and removed the minors without their parents' consent. According to state law, under Article 18304, this constitutes interference with custody. The prosecution emphasized that the defendant should have waited for firefighters or the police to arrive instead of acting on her own. However, there was video footage of the house fire, as well as footage showing the children being rescued. The fire department confirmed that the fire started in the kitchen and spread rapidly. If they had waited just a few more minutes, the flames could have reached the second-floor bedrooms. The woman, without the parents present, rescued the children from the fire, preventing a fatal tragedy. The judge ruled immediately. That was not kidnapping, it was an act of heroism. All charges were dismissed at once. What do you think? Do you agree with the judge?
That these similarities serve only as part of the investigative clues and cannot be used to definitively identify the deceased. Meanwhile, police collected potential DNA evidence at Nancy's residence, with results pending. The missing woman's personal belongings and essential medications were left behind, making it difficult to believe she departed voluntarily. Law enforcement stated that determining when the body appeared at the location and whether it connects to the disappearance case is crucial. Any unconfirmed speculation may interfere with the investigation and cause secondary trauma to the family. Internal sources indicate that the possibility of a crime committed by someone familiar with her or someone who knew her habits cannot be ruled out. Until the identity is confirmed, everything remains a possibility. Regardless of the reason, this appears to be a premeditated assault. Let us all pray together.
Where are they now? The kid who went viral for his extremely rare medical condition. This is Amari Stover, and in 2021, a YouTube video showcasing his condition garnered over 24 million views. Amari was born with a rare condition called neurofibromatosis type 1. The condition causes Amari to have huge tumors on his face, which have severely affected his vision and breathing. Due to his tumors, Amari had completely lost vision in his left eye and has limited vision in his right eye. He's been through a lot at such a young age and has sadly experienced tremendous surface bullying because of his different appearance. Candace, Amare's mother, took him to their local park one day where he was cruelly called a monster by other kids, and he never went back to that park again. People online were shocked of how horribly Amare was treated, with thousands of people coming forward wanting to help. So Amare's mother decided to start a GoFundMe in hopes of raising $120,000. But beyond relief, she was able to raise over $1 million, 10 times more than she had expected. As of today, despite over $1 million being raised for Amare's
Michael. Back then I was young and naive, driven only by a hunger for fame and fortune. I ignored Michael's warnings completely. He wanted me to join his dream island, a place filled with children's laughter and innocence. At the time, I foolishly convinced myself that Michael was just afraid of my rising popularity. I hesitated, and that hesitation changed everything. Diddy saw right through me. He promised me more fame, more success, more of everything I thought I wanted, so I chose him. Just like he promised, my fame skyrocketed. But that was also the moment I started falling into an endless abyss. Michael never truly gave up on me. He kept sending emails, trying to pull me back, trying to warn me. I ignored every single one, and that made Diddy furious. When that luxury sports car appeared in front of me, I woke up in Diddy's room. My world collapsed. I felt like a walking corpse, alive, but already dead inside. I tried to reach out to Michael again, but it was useless. By then, Diddy had taken total control over every part of my life. Watching Michael be slandered, abused, and eventually pushed into severe mental illness tore my heart apart, but I was powerless to stop any of it. At one point, I tried to expose their crimes. I poured everything into an album called Yummy. What followed wasn't justice, it was ridicule, harassment, and endless curses. I was branded as crazy, completely broken. One talk show host even humiliated me publicly by mocking me with a song. In the end, all I could do was disappear, hiding away and silently bearing all the pain on my own.
Ella proporcionó comida a los bomberos que protegían la comunidad y usted exige una indemnización. Pagarán por ello.
Según la investigación, los bomberos trabajaban turnos de 16 horas, a veces incluso 18 horas al día, con casi ningún descanso. Hacían todo lo posible por proteger la ciudad que tenían detrás. La dueña del camión de comida estacionó su vehículo cerca del área de reunión y preparó tacos y burritos para que los bomberos pudieran disfrutar de una comida caliente durante sus breves descansos. No les cobró nada. Sin embargo, unos días después, recibió una multa de $5,000. La razón fue que había prestado servicios de comida en una zona no autorizada, violando las regulaciones estatales. En el tribunal, el fiscal estatal argumentó que, según el artículo 47.12 de la ley estatal, todos los vendedores ambulantes de comida deben cumplir estrictamente con los requisitos de permisos basados en la ubicación. Señaló que la emergencia del incendio forestal no eximía a los proveedores de cumplir con las normas de salud y seguridad. Tras revisar el caso, el juez declaró que el sistema de permisos existe para regular actividades comerciales y no para restringir la ayuda humanitaria de buena voluntad en situaciones de emergencia. La multa fue anulada en el acto. El tribunal determinó que la actuación del gobierno fue irrazonable y vulneró los derechos legales de la dueña del camión de comida y ordenó al Estado pagarle una compensación de $100,000. ¿Qué opinas? ¿Crees que este fallo es justo?
Une mère est assise dans une voiture en train de jouer avec son jeune fils d'une manière inappropriée. Franchement, sur TikTok, on ne peut même pas montrer une bouteille de vin. Rien de tout ça. Donc, clairement, quelque chose ne va pas. Je n'arrive pas à croire que cette vidéo soit encore en ligne. Et des gens la défendent en disant « Oh, elle joue juste ». De vraies mères ne jouent jamais avec leurs enfants de cette façon. Nulle part dans le monde. Tu demandes à cet enfant s'il veut manger quelque chose. Et ensuite, il y a des remarques sur le fait que ça sent mauvais là-dessous. Et tout le reste. Franchement, ce n'est pas normal. Ce n'est pas normal du tout. Je ne sais pas où est sa mère à elle. Je ne comprends pas pourquoi elle est aussi à fond là-dedans. Parce que, quand tu vas sur sa page... Écoutez, c'est TikTok, d'accord? J'essaie de vous le dire sans trop entrer dans les détails. Vous allez devoir aller voir la vidéo par vous-même. Mais je vous le dis, de vraies mères ne font pas ça. Elle ne devrait pas jouer avec son fils de cette manière. Ça suffit, vraiment. Je suis fatigué de voir des choses qui ne sont tout simplement pas normales sur cette application. Et pourtant, TikTok a toujours laissé cette vidéo en ligne.
Screaming and in tears, Lupita's mom
in the store. According to surveillance footage, her ex-husband, 67-year-old Lurivar Jose, walked straight into the store with a weapon and then shot Maria without warning. Maria was shot in the chest but struggled to resist and fought with Lurivar before falling to the ground due to excessive blood loss. However, Lurivar did not let her go and fired several more shots at her until she remained motionless before leaving the scene. A passerby made an emergency call, and when emergency personnel arrived, Maria was pronounced dead on the spot. According to the police report, Lurivar collided with a pickup truck traveling in the opposite direction while driving away on a small road. When the police arrived, he was already dead, and the pickup truck driver was subsequently detained and questioned. The prosecutor claimed that the murder was shocking and had a negative impact. The case is still under investigation. What do you think? Please leave a comment in the comment section.
Where she bought the ticket to cash in her winnings. She thought she won at least $500. She says the clerk in this lucky store took her ticket, scanned it, and the machine sang a winning tune.
It said, "Eee!" A beep made a sound on the machine, and then a pink sales slip came out, and he just grabbed it.
Amelia says the clerk wouldn't give her that validation slip showing her winnings or return her scratch ticket. After some back and forth, he handed her $500 cash from the register.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But even with that money in hand, she had a gut feeling that something was wrong.
When I called the lottery people and the police,
it would appear that what he did was he took the validation slip, kind of crumpled it up quickly, threw it away or otherwise disposed of it, kept it away from the customer, and attempted to pay her approximately $500 in cash.
Executive Director Mike Sweeney says,
"Shut up! Shut up!"
At a grocery store parking lot, a father repeatedly beat his toddler son and screamed at him. A bystander recorded the video of this incident, which showed the man's aggressive educational approach to the fullest. 44-year-old James Collins was in the back seat of his truck, shouting at the child and constantly telling him to shut up. During this period, a woman attempted to intervene, and then Collins began to shout at her, telling her to mind her own business. The child's crying drew a crowd of